Hi, my name is Callie Landry, and today I'm presenting on what is the best treatment for veterans with PTSD. In this presentation, I had to compare and contrast a popular press article with a scholarly journal. At the end, I had to make a final statement about which article I believed portrayed the information the best to the audience. First, we have the popular press article. It's titled Yoga and Veterans, A Different Kind of Warrior. It is written by Jennifer Steinhauer, who is a writer for the New York Times. The citation is at the bottom of the screen. The article begins to state that the Department of Veterans Affairs has effectively treated opioid addiction and PTSD with different forms of yoga. Yoga, you have to lengthen your breath, so in doing so, it allows people to get out of the fight and flight response and into a more relaxed mode. People with PTSD are experiencing traumatic experiences, so it allows them to focus in the moment and not in the past. Steinhauer has interviewed 4 different veterans who are instructors of yoga. I'm going to talk about the 2 that I found most influential. The first one is Christian Allaire. He is a retired Coast Guard, and he teaches hot yoga, which is a more athletic form of yoga, so he believes that this is beneficial to people who are suffering from PTSD and any veterans that come in because they like the active, more muscle strengthening exercises. He states that he is able to help people who are still active duty and also people who are retired. And he says that to be able to be skilled at a firearm, you have to have control. And yoga teaches you that control. In his words, he is able to get veterans and active duty members to use yoga as an outlet for whatever they're going through. The second veteran I'm going to be talking about is Andy Johnson, who is a former Army combat medic, and he states that his passion is getting men into yoga to get them connected to themselves, the pain that they have felt, and the things that they need to let go. He is using yoga as a form of an outlet to be able to process feelings and for veterans to overcome the negative thoughts that they have due to PTSD. Secondly, we have the scholarly journal. This is titled PTSD Treatment for Veterans, What's Working, What's New, and What's Next. The citation is at the bottom of the screen. It was written by Miriam Reisman. The beginning of the article just gives background about PTSD, such as when it was first discovered, what treatments were used, what didn't work. Miriam also went into barriers for treating PTSD, and to be able to be treated by the Veterans Affairs Office, you have to be either honorably discharged or generally discharged. And even then, whenever you do get an appointment with the VA, there's very long waits, so people are not willing to wait that long for treatment. And also the social stigma of receiving treatment for PTSD is also a barrier because it is seen as being weak. That's the stigma, and veterans want to be portrayed as strong so they don't go seek treatment. And usually, along with the diagnosis of PTSD, there are usually depressive diagnoses, substance abuse, and anxiety diagnoses. So this article goes into many different forms of treatments, anything you can think of, really. It states the non-pharmaceutical routes, such as cognitive processing therapy and prolonged exposure, which are effective for some people, not for others. The pharmacological route is usually prescription for antidepressants or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So that can also work for people, but the doctors would rather people try the non-pharmaceutical routes before they try the pharmaceutical routes. And then there's also combined therapy. So it's a use of non-pharmaceutical and pharmaceutical forms of treatment. And it goes into many different statistics of what works, but at the end of the day, it states that it is different for every person. Each person is different, and they have to work with their doctors to seek which is the best form. So now I'm going to be getting into the comparing and contrasting. First up, I'm going to compare and contrast the audience. For the popular press article, it addresses veterans more directly and gives veteran testimonies because it wants to connect with its audience and it wants people to see that seeking treatment is okay and you can do it in the form of yoga, which is people are more reluctant to use yoga as a form of treatment versus like pharmaceutical routes. The scholarly journal has a more generalized audience. It gives statistics. It's very informative to the public. Anyone who is researching PTSD or veterans is able to go to this journal and receive information about it. Both of them address veterans in a completely different way, but they both do want the best for veterans. Popular Press is trying to get their message across by relating to the veteran, whereas the scholarly journal is just stating facts and wanting the veterans to see that some forms of treatment do work. Second thing I'm comparing and contrasting are the arguments. For the popular press, it only focuses on one type of treatment, and that's yoga. For the scholarly journal, almost every treatment known was discussed. Pharmaceutical route, non-pharmaceutical route, and combined route. But both of them do agree that non-pharmaceutical treatments can work for the treatment of PTSD. It just depends on the person. The third thing I'm comparing and contrasting is the evidence. For the popular press article, it gives statistics, but it also gives personal testimonies. And by using these personal testimonies, the evidence was made more personal so the audience would feel connected. For the scholarly journal, it's more just statistics, it's professional, and it's more informative. But both of them provide evidence of success rates of treatments. And lastly, I'm going to be making my final statement. I believe that the popular press article was able to portray the information the best to the audience because it developed an emotional connection. It gave personal testimonies about how yoga has helped treat symptoms of PTSD. So I believe that veterans who are seeking treatment are able to look at these testimonies and connect with them and see I can receive help through forms of yoga. I also think that veterans are going to be more willing to use yoga as a strategy of coping and treatment because it's non-invasive and it's athletic and it's like a workout. And my evidence is there's a quote from Steinhauer. The Department of Veteran Affairs has successfully used yoga to help treat opioid addiction and post-traumatic stress. So this just goes to show that yoga is very helpful for veterans and a lot of people seek it out. And these are my references. Thank you for your time.